What didn't you realize about yourself until someone told you? That I like to interrupt people and interject essentially what I thought they were going to say as to seem more understanding or to seem like I wasn't wrong. It was something I picked up from my dad and never realized how rude I was being until now my ex-girlfriend brought it up. Because it was all kinda just how my family communicated. Now silence is one of my biggest skills to use in conversation, and I make sure I let people express their full opinion before trying to explain myself. I have a similar issue due to years of constantly being cut off and impulse issues. I'm subconsciously scared that I would never be able to get my point across that I jump into conversations, talk way too loudly, or cut people off. I think subconsciously that is exactly what it was for me. I just never realized I was doing it until my girlfriend very politely pointed it out and talked with me about it. I'm glad to see I'm not completely alone with this. My sister didn't know my family, are ethically Chinese until one of her classmates pointed it out to her. She came home really confused that day. Doesn't she own a mirror? We're pretty tan, live in a Southeast Asian country, migrated a few generations back, and my family neither speak Mandarin nor celebrate Chinese New Year. She probably figured we were just like everyone else, just with smaller eyes. Also, she was 6 years old and no one in our community has brought up the issue of ethnicity before. But yeah, it was hilarious when she came home insisting that she isn't Chinese. Whenever I walk around alone, even if I'm in a perfectly good mood, I look like I'm going somewhere I know I'm going to die. I apparently have a constant look of pure dread whenever I walk around alone. I have this, except I look like I'm on my way to kill someone, resting killer face. Back in high school, my youth pastor told me every time you look at me, you look like you're sizing me up for about half a second. Apparently normal for me is a serial killer, but interacting with people is a smile. That I don't see in 3D, i.e. I have no depth perception and see the world like it's a photograph. An optician pointed this out to me during a routine eye test in my 20s. Since that is how I have always seen things, and had no knowledge that the world doesn't look just the same to everyone else, I didn't know. Strangely, I can actually see 3D movies with the glasses on, and it makes me feel physically sick. So do you have trouble playing sports where balls get thrown around? Absolutely. In tennis, I always felt the ball went right through the racket. In volleyball, I got hit in the head a lot. Never knew why. Squash was okay because the ball is moving so fast you don't really see it anyway. Just try to react to angles. Apparently, and this is what my best friend says is her favorite part about me, I get a big goofy smile on my face whenever I make someone laugh, especially if it's a big group. She says I just look around at everyone with the biggest smile in the world with a big "I did good" look on my face. Are you a good boy? He is the goodest of boys. I have a lazy eye. Never noticed until my wife pointed it out in my early 30s. Same here, I see better out of one eye, so it has gradually become dominant. It takes someone like your wife to point that out because everyone else is afraid to tell you. I see better out of one eye as well, and now I'm worried that I have a lazy eye and no one has told me. That I come across as intimidating, like I hate everyone and aloof. As someone with lots of self-hatred and low self-esteem, it was reassuring and frustrating at the same time. Reassuring because that might be the reason I struggle to make friends, as opposed to me just being unlikable, and frustrating for the same reason. Kinda funny actually. Shyness comes off as I'm better than everyone and definitely too good to talk to you. Almost always the opposite is true. More like, you have no interest in what I have to say for I am a worm and know only worm things. Actual narcissists who believe themselves to be better than most have a way of announcing their betterness, sometimes subtly, other times not so much. Same here. I am an extremely quiet person, but it's not because I don't like someone. My current college roommate and my past roommate both thought I hated them at first because I usually keep to myself. It's not that I hate talking to people, I just don't really talk about my personal life because I feel like no one cares. It's either that or I'm too focused on something and have a hard time juggling a conversation while I'm really busy. That my voice sounds way too loud than it normally should when I speak. That I'm short. Oh wait, no, I knew that without people constantly informing me. What a shocker. Every single time I show someone my ID, you don't look nearly that old. In my head, thanks, I know. Now give me my booze so I can drink away the adult problems that I have from being an adult even though I don't look like one. Comes out of my mouth. Yeah, I get that all the time. Context. I am 25, but look 15. You'll be glad when you're 35 and look 25. Not me, but I noticed my friend would make this kind of tutting noise when he saw an attractive girl. He was completely unaware and it took me a while to work out why he was doing it. That I don't say goodbye when I end a phone call, I just hang up. Are you sure you aren't living in a movie? I'm funny, but I ruin it by trying to keep the laugh going. I'm glad someone told me that because now I'm more aware of it in social situations. Just take the laugh and enjoy it. I work with someone who occasionally gets a laugh but then tries to milk it. It is annoying because the follow-up is rarely funny and sometimes offensive. As a result, people don't laugh at his jokes as much, even if they are funny. It's just awkward. That I watch my food when I eat. I didn't realize people don't look at their food, but I do to make sure that something doesn't drop and make a mess. Also, my partner says it's weird to respond to I love you with I love you instead of I love you too. I never realized I didn't say the to part. What do you mean other people don't look at their food? I look at mine when I eat also. I have eaten way too many bowls of cereal that turned out to be nothing but moths. I always look. One of my eyes is slightly higher than the other. I had noticed sunglasses always seemed like they were slightly angled when I wore them, but I assumed it was my ears. Figured one was slightly higher than the other. Then one day my mom showed me a picture of my grandpa from when he was in his 20s. In that picture you could tell one of his eyes was about half an inch higher than the other, and my mom said that's where you get it from, which is how I found out about it. Turns out it kind of runs in my family. Some of us it's more obvious than others. Mine is barely noticeable until you know about it, and since having it pointed out to me I've noticed it on a few of my relatives. My closest friend growing up had untreated schizophrenia. He always had illusions or delusions that he had magical powers, and whenever he dropped something, he would get this focused look on his face and hold up his hands as though he was trying to use the force to stop the object from rolling away. Anyway, it was unusual at first, but it just became something that you got used to and stopped paying attention to. So not only did I grow up with him and ended up being roommates with him for several years, a couple years ago I ran into a friend I hadn't seen in a long time and I had dropped something, and he immediately started laughing and said, "Did you just try to use friend's name here's force power?" I hadn't noticed up until that moment, but I had picked up his behavior and go through the same motions. To this day, I can't stop myself from doing it. So to anyone who doesn't know this backstory, I look like a bit of a nerd anytime something is dropped around me. One day, it's gonna work. I have acne, and I should try using something. Seriously though, most normal people know that they have acne, and they do try using something. You don't have to remind them. Screw everyone with clear skin who thinks just using face wash will make it magically go away and that you're lazy and dirty and clearly not trying to fix the problem. My friend always says this. She's like, "That kid is dirty. The reason he has acne is because he doesn't wash his face." Yeah, hormones and genetics have nothing to do with it apparently. My dentist commented that I was always her calmest patient. Blew my mind because I absolutely hate going to the dentist, and quite honestly just sit there the whole time trying not to have a panic attack. Glad to know I come off as calm. Paralyzed, maybe. I talk about myself a lot and don't often seem interested in what other people have to say. It's an annoying problem, but I have been getting a lot better at listening to people. There you go, talking about yourself again. That I'm not as laid back as I thought I was, or at all. Turns out I'm about as tightly wound as they come, and I didn't realize it until I described myself as laid back and someone laughed. This exact situation happened to me. The person who laughed at me was my best friend, and when I insisted that I was definitely laid back, she put her hand on my shoulder and gave me a firm no. Are we the same person? I had the exact same experience. It was crushing. That if I'm standing, I start swaying back and forth after a while. Never noticed I did it and no clue how it started. Go easy on the alcohol, bro. I walk with my feet pointed nearly 90 degrees away from one another. Do you walk like a clown? Or pigeon-toed? Apparently, whenever I speak, I always sound like I'm on the verge of laughing. Whenever I feel sad, I think of this and it cheers me up. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We did everything in our power to save your husband, but his injuries were too severe." Girl once said, "It's hard to tell when you are lying or unsure. Your face always looks so confident. Is this a lie?" Me and some friends were trying to find a store. I previously said I knew where it was, but in all honesty, I got lost. The girl asked me if we were lost, and I just said, "We are close." That's when she made the comment. There's apparently a heck ton of quirks that I had no clue about until my friends pointed them out to me. Often I repeat things under my breath after saying them to make sure that it sounded right. If there is ambient music playing, I always sync up my steps to the rhythm. When listening to someone talk about something, I lock eyes with them and then sigh right before speaking. When I'm walking alone, I get lost in my thoughts and notice absolutely nothing going on around me. I will make huge dramatic changes to the way I talk mid-conversation depending on the subject and who I'm talking to. I think all guys do this, but I pat my sides when I get up to check for my wallet and phone. On your next to last point, I do the same thing. I check my pockets, but first I'll check 3 or 4 places that I'm fairly sure I've never even had a pocket, no matter what I'm wearing. Right pocket, phone. Back right pocket, wallet. Left pocket, keys. I think this is bordering on OCD-like behavior every time I stand up. That I'm gorgeous. I'm not actually kidding. As a teenage boy with anxiety currently going through 6th form, the best thing for me so far was when I met someone who is now my girlfriend. Every day before school, I'd get up and look at myself in the mirror thinking about how spotty and horrible my face looked. My girlfriend told me that I looked gorgeous, and it was then that I realized that I had been judging myself too harshly. I'd been so focused on a negative image of myself that I hadn't let myself develop a positive self-image. Now I get up every morning thinking about how I can improve my life instead of bullying myself. I encountered a dude the other day who was seriously one of the most beautiful people I've met in real life. When I told him, he was legit shocked. It was kind of endearing, but come on, mate, look at you. I had a similar experience with a man I grew up with. He was really shy in high school, and tons of people had crushes on him, but no one could get him to say more than a few words. I know I tried. Years later, I moved back in with my family to pay off college loans and found out that he was still living with his parents half the year, while teaching private surfing lessons and lifeguarding and spending the other half of the year surfing below the equator. We meet up. At one point, I mentioned how I'm glad he got over his shyness. It was a shame in high school so many of us had crushes on him. He was shocked. Me? Handsome? Yeah, bro, very much so. He didn't believe me at first, and made me name some people who had crushes on him. I watched as the comprehension of his beauty penetrated through whatever he'd put up to block it. I met up a year later and found out he still occasionally did lifeguarding at private parties but was primarily acting, and driving for Uber in between. My spouse joked, "Oh, so you finally went into the professionally handsome business?" He laughed and agreed. It was amazing to see how much he'd changed. High school him would have buried his head in embarrassment. 3 years later, and he's just acting, and getting a fair amount of gigs, all of which he seems to be cast for his handsomeness. His confidence and self-esteem seem to have completely changed. I feel like I changed a childhood friend's life for the good by pointing out the obvious one day. I pronounce things weird because of all the accents I've adopted due to moving to different countries and frequent traveling during childhood. Therefore, most strangers think I don't understand a lick of English. It gets hard when people can't understand you and they try to speak slower with simpler English words. It just gets more complicated than it needs to be. Just yesterday, a kind gentleman who drove past me felt the need to inform me that I am fat. That was nice of him. You'd be happy to know that kind gentleman that OP encountered that day, that yesterday, has been absolved of any privileges that a man should have. I don't say my mom or my dad while telling a story in a sentence. I'll just say, yeah, today mom blah 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 blah, which apparently weirds people out. No one pointed it out to me until college, and several different people have noticed it without asking or prompting them to since. Then we have my brother who will be telling me a story and say, my dad blah 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 blah. We're full siblings, dude. He's my dad too. I think it's so weird when siblings do that to each other. Hadn't realized my right earlobe is detached and my left one is attached. Just checked. I'm normal. Apparently, I am an asshole, which, considering how much I care for people, shocked me. That day I had to learn the hard way that there is a difference between being a malicious asshole and just being an asshole. I'm told I fall into the latter category. Can you explain that further? I'm a very direct and blunt person. I don't compromise who I am for anyone, even to my detriment. People aren't super receptive to that personality trait, but I'm okay with that. Does that help? I'm a know-it-all. It's been 10 years since I was told this, and nowadays I'm a bit better at not telling people what they should think or do. You weren't a know-it-all before they told you. That I was negative. Didn't realize how many negative comments I was making until it was pointed out. It helped me think before I speak. I do this and it's really hard to stop. Keep up the good fight. I can't have messy fingers when I eat. Every time I dip my hands into a bag of chips or eat wings, after I eat a bite, I have to lick off the excess and I make a smacking sound each time. Imagine hearing that for half an hour straight. They made these magical things called napkins that you can use to clean your fingers without making wet mouth sounds. But then paper waste, and no delicious flavor bonuses. Quite a few actually, that I apologize too much, that I'm gentle, that I turn the paper 90 degrees sideways to right. I also apparently look pale and dead all the time, which has led to several people asking me if I was going to faint. Are you me? I actually had 2 doctors demand blood tests. Not anemic. Could you be? As a matter of fact, I am. I found out after a mandatory checkup before enrolling in college a few years ago. It's pretty mild though, if you don't count me fainting at least once during that time of month. Before that, I thought I was just unfit. LOL. I remember someone suggesting that I could be anemic too after I told him about my constant and extreme urge to chew on ice. Not sure how that is of any relevance though. I sleep with half eyes open. That I have very good work ethic by my physical science teacher in junior year of high school. Even my current boss once told me I was a fine worker after giving me a raise. Makes me feel good. Someone once pointed out to me that I interrupt during conversation. Now I am hyper aware of when others interrupt. I'm glad someone pointed it out to me because I never knew I did it. When others interrupt me, instead of trying to talk over them, I wait and stare at them until they're done talking, and then I stare at them some more. Eventually, they realize why I'm staring at them. Active listening is an acquired skill, and it doesn't require you to interject any time you hear something relatable. I apparently have a very commanding presence. Many people have told me this, and I've personally noticed it once or twice. Now, if I was a little bit more confident and spoke with authority, I'd probably be a very, very good speaker. I've also been told this. A friend of mine refers to it as the it factor because at the core, it is pure magnetism. I am great at drawing people in and making them totally at ease unintentionally, and so I have to be careful because I am also a blindly trusting moron. Being a human is so complicated. I assume things without proper information. Did someone tell you this, or are you guessing? I didn't realize I'd earned my title at first. I was just living my life, doing my thing. Then they handed me a crown I'm not allowed to wear near a school and gave me the credentials to my username. My voice is deeper than I thought it was, especially for a girl voice. Lots of my friends thought I hated them when we first met because my resting face looks mean and that I don't smile a lot. People think I have no emotions. Someone once asked seriously if I was dead inside. That I'm starting to lose my hair. They could have left it alone along with my illusions of youth and good-lookingness. They didn't. People are nasty. I spelt my name wrong until I was 18 and my girlfriend told me I was misspelling it. That I have BPD, or borderline personality disorder. It makes a whole lot of sense why I'm such an asshole all the time, and why literally everything affects me. I have it in a quiet form, so it manifests itself a touch differently than most. So I wasn't properly diagnosed for a while. At least you realize that you're an asshole. My friend has it, and she's really embraced her BPD in the way that she can now use it as an excuse, but she totally won't recognize the fact that she is a total asshole to most people. By the end of our time in our school program, she was probably the most hated person in the program by far. She went out of her way to ruin people's lives if she didn't like them. It was so crazy. My vocabulary is off-putting, and is very likely the reason people think I'm a snob and don't like me. Have you tried catering to your audience and meeting them halfway in the interest of mutual respect? That I speak really quietly, and people around me actually aren't as deaf as I thought they were. But I don't know how to talk louder without feeling like I'm straining my voice or actually yelling. You talk really fast. Damn near every person I have talked to who doesn't speak English as a first language. Even your comment sounded fast in my head. You think far too highly of yourself. They aren't wrong, but I think I do it deliberately. For example, I don't like handing in work that doesn't meet my standard, so thinking highly of myself lets me set the bar high. I eat one thing at a time. Like if I start my burger, I have to completely finish it before eating a fry. I do that too, and I rotate my plate to bring the next food closer to me. That I have a massive nose and prominent upper lip due to a pronounced overbite. Having previously only ever seen my face from head on in the mirror, I had never noticed it before. I thought I had a normal nose and mouth until a nice boy at school pointed it out. I used 2 mirrors to check myself out in profile, and holy crap, he was right. Only a small thing, and I've gotten used to it now, but it was the weirdest feeling to realize you have the completely wrong impression of the thing that you have been seeing in the mirror several times a day for your whole life. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have something to share, please feel free to do so in the comments below. We'd love to hear about it. Then be sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you know when our next video is ready. For more videos just like this one, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.